What is up? What is up, YouTube? Let's go. What is up? We are back. It is Brevity Boys. You Brevity Boys, you're hanging out with us. We're getting your week started off just right. Big Z, say hi to the people.
What's up, people? I am, man, what this week went by. This week went by so fast. Happy
So
New Year to you
fast.
guys. Happy New Year's to you, my boy. How you
It,
doing?
man,
How's your New Year going, man?
I just think it's insane how fast that it happens. Like I was talking to my son, I was like,
Yeah,
look, in school, time is gonna go like this fast. Like it's gonna start here and it's gonna like
yeah,
slowly, but like as you get out of school, and then you have kids, and like you're doing it, like it just time just goes. Like all of a sudden it's like, dude, I'm gonna be like 35. Like this is
yes.
nuts. Where are the
It's
years
so nuts.
going? Like, think about high school for a second, right? Think about
Yeah,
how long that 4 year period seemed, right?
so long, so
Like,
long.
like
Yeah,
all the things that happened in high, it's like, whoa, look at all these and then you look back, it's like, dude, I couldn't
yeah.
even tell. Like the last 4 years are a blur. Like I could
I
not even differentiate them probably.
I know I forget like certain like moments, like not like huge moments, but like little medium-sized moments that I
Yeah,
used to be able to remember as like a teenager, like things that would happen. And now
right,
it's like, what? That happened on that day on this like a year ago? I don't remember that.
right.
It's nuts, man. Yeah, it is a blur. Like having kids, working all the time, like it's nuts. It makes you it makes you want to just slow things down. Like,
It's,
but when you were a kid or a teenager, it was like, I can't wait to go. I can't wait to get out in the world and work all the time and
yeah.
blah 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 blah. Now I'm like, man, I wish one day just like stood still and
It,
you could just like
it
live in the moment, you know?
what's really nice is like it causes you to like capitalize a little bit, right? Like with the boys, like
Yeah.
I look at the boys and I'm like, dude, you're getting so much older so quickly. And so like it
Right.
makes you like, like I like will try to be intentional, like exist in their world. When I get home or when they get home, it's like, what do you want to do? Like, oh, we're gonna play some Minecraft, like let's do it. You know what I mean? Just knowing that like to us, it's like it's so easy to just lose days. Like you don't think
Yep.
you're on your phone that much, and then all of a sudden it's like hours have gone by. It's like, dude, I was on my phone. I wasn't even present. Like, what
Yep.
happened? You know what I
I know.
mean? And
I
like
know.
it caused you to be more like intentional. I'll tell you one of the things that I love that we just did is like every year Danielle has like a little. She plans out this whole little New Year's party, and like it's very low key. It's very very. It's not a big party. We don't invite a lot of people at all, but it's like kid friendly, and she organizes games for the kids that we do like that do come. And so
Nice.
like yeah, every hour they do some little fun game where they get some like candy, get like a prize. We make it all the way to midnight, and so they just have a blast with it. But
Nice.
it is cool to see like as we've gone through the years, like the pictures and the videos of the kids like doing the poppers and stuff like that. Like it's like, oh my gosh, like you like it seems like
Yeah, man.
yesterday you were like this big. Like what happened? You
Yeah,
know,
man. It's going fast.
it's going fast. What'd you do on yours? What'd you do?
Oliver, he spent the night with his grandparents, and
All
so
right,
Haley and I, we went to one of our friends' house. We've been having like a New Year's Eve party for years over there,
nice.
and so yeah, we got a night away and hung out with some friends, and just took it in with them, which was fun. Um, yeah, it was a good time. Definitely just missing Oliver the whole time.
Yeah,
That always happens, but it was good. Next day, uh, hung out, went over to her parents' house, and we had like a pancake breakfast type of thing. And Oliver was doing t-ball because we signed him up for t-ball actually. So he's
yeah,
been he's been practicing a lot and he's super pumped, man. Like every day he's asking me, "Is today the day I play with my baseball team? Is today the day?" And I'm like, "Ah, the coach is gonna email me. Like, I'll let you know. It's gonna come up."
yeah.
And so he's super excited about it. We went yesterday. We got some cleats. We got him a glove. He already had a glove, but we got him a bigger glove. Um, and we're waiting on like the bat right now. But I think we'll probably get that next weekend. But yeah, man, it's gonna be really fun, really funny to watch. But it's just gonna be like I'm really excited because the dude is pretty good. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like, he has a freaking arm, and the way he can hit off a tee is insane. Like we
Yeah,
have him hitting like those little, those tiny wiffle balls
yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
not like the big ones, like the little tiny golf ball sized ones with the actual like wiffle ball bat, like
Yeah.
the tiny little this
Yeah.
like it's not really wide. And so this dude has some good hand-eye coordination and he can throw really well. So
Yeah. I remember he
I'm
showed
excited.
me.
He just
Yeah.
can't. He's gotten that part down. He just can't run the bases. Like he doesn't know like the
Oh
order yet.
yeah.
And like
That's pretty standard.
which is like I know there's gonna be like parents out there because like in this league, I guess like the parents are allowed on the field to like guide them, like, okay, go to first, go, like so like we'll be out there helping him, but he'll get it
Right.
down. But yeah, man,
Right.
it's an exciting time. I'm really happy that we could definitely we could sign him up this year.
That's cool. That's really, yeah. Spring is about to get underway. And if you have followed this podcast at all, you know when baseball starts, my life ends. What little life that I have is gone, and it is just baseball. I will be at the fields 5 days a week easily. I mean, I'm fired up. I can't wait. I love watching the boys ball. It's going to be a great year. Going to be a great season. We've done a ton of work to the fields. I've been up there. We built a couple new mounds. You laid some sod, just all the good things. Like the field
Nice.
looks absolutely incredible. So I can't wait for that. But yeah, man, I like it's like locked and loaded, dude. Like I know that
You're
it's
ready,
go
man.
time. I
You're
know it's go
ready.
time. I'll tell you somebody, Big Z, as we jump in tonight, we're talking some NFL, we're talking some college football. You know what time it is, but I'll tell you who else is locked in, ready, locked and loaded. Saquon Barkley, right?
Yeah, man.
He had a chance to break the all-time record. And I know somebody out there is like, oh, it's 17 games. Like, but it is. It is what it is, right? So you can't hold that against Saquon that he has an extra game to do it.
Right.
Regardless,
Yeah.
it's really cool to break that record. So he comes out and says, look, winning is what matters. Like, I'm not that concerned about this thing. Winning is what matters. But also later on, the next day, he's like, it was an opportunity, to etch my name in history.
Yeah.
That would have been
Yeah.
kind of cool. But, also I'm fine with the decision. And as I'm listening to this interview, I'm kind of like, are you fine? Like, are you actually okay? But I think what it
Right.
comes down to for me, Big Z, and tell me if you agree, is I think they got to win, right? Like, if he's going to sit and
Yeah.
stay healthy and get ready for this playoff
Right.
run, like, they got to win some games here, dude. They got to make a run.
Yeah, he made that sacrifice for the team, obviously. Like I heard it was like a big thing where Sirianni had to go to the coaching brass and then to the players, and it kind of like a collective opinion was formed like, okay, yeah, you should sit because like we don't want to risk you getting hurt.
Right.
Our seat is already locked in. But I honestly appreciate Saquon like kind of being a little vulnerable in that second day interview. Like, yeah, it is kind of a bummer. I could have had my name in the record books. Like I kind of appreciate that. Like there's like the
Yeah.
human coming out of him. Like these guys just aren't robots, right? Like in so many times these guys are just like trained to say the correct 100%, the politically correct answer.
Right.
And I appreciate that. Like he wasn't, bashing anyone on his team or his coaching staff. He's just like, yeah, it's a bummer. Like I wish it could happen, but I do want like what's best for the team. And so I appreciate that about him. But yeah, they got to win. They have to win because like
Definitely. Yeah.
if he's not sitting, he's probably breaking that record. Like they're going to force feed him the ball to make sure that he gets that record. So they're going to have to make it to the Super Bowl, probably win that thing for him not to hold a grudge against his whole team and his coaching staff. But yeah, man, I 100% agree with you. I wish I could have seen it. Eric Dickerson's record, it was so close to being broken by Adrian Peterson back
Yep.
in the day.
Yep.
Like it was like what, 25, 30 yards.
It was close. It was really
it was
close.
so close in a 16-game season. But Saquon, like he's one of those guys that you're always rooting for just because of his history with his injuries and like playing for like one of the worst franchises ever. So like you're always rooting for that guy. So yeah, I wish I could have seen it, but I'm glad that he was really selfless in this regard, and he took the L,
Right.
the internal L. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Eric Dickerson was at 2,105 yards. Adrian Peterson was at 2,097. So it was actually less.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it was like right there. Adrian, you just
gosh.
needed one more big run. What are you doing?
Yeah,
But
one more.
regardless, one thing I did think about, which is I thought was actually really cool, and kind of sad for them, that I would never consider them because no one ever does, was like the offensive line, right? Like that was a piece where the offensive linemen were kind of like, yeah, kind of would have been cool to be a part of that. Like,
Yeah, because it's
oh,
like
yeah,
it's
this
because
is
of
like,
them.
yeah, you did this,
Half
right?
of it.
Like,
Yeah.
like you don't get that record if you don't have some semblance of a decent line,
Oh,
right? Like Barry
that line
Sanders
is
got the
so good.
closest, 2053, right? And he didn't necessarily always have the best offensive lines, but
Yeah.
that's their claim to fame, right? Like, hey, dude, we played with Barry Sanders, right? Like we got him that 2,050 yards.
Yeah. Oh
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So I mean that's kind of cool. Another guy, listen, this is there's so many things we got to talk about this week, Big C. I mean, this is
Yes.
we're jumping around, but there's just so many hot topics in sports, and I love it. And one of those hot topics that we've talked about, we've been discussing a lot, especially with like the NBA, right? One of the reasons we went on sort of a tangent, if you didn't check it out, it was our last podcast, I believe. We're talking about the NBA, why we're not really watching it as much. And one of the big things
Yeah.
that we talked about was load management,
Yeah.
right? Like we don't like that. Hey, why are you not playing? You're playing tops like 4 games a week, right? The rest of the world works 5 days a week minimum, right?
Right.
That's what we're working, right? You can play 4 games. You can play 60-minute games. Like you're going to be
Yeah.
all right, right? Like
Yeah.
you'll figure it out. You're going to be okay. I get it. It can be very physically demanding. If you need to sit a quarter, sit a quarter. But missing just an entire game, like just sitting there in your street clothes. Like every time I turn it on, every time it just seems like somebody's sitting there in their street clothes. But that is not the point of this rant. The point of this rant is that Chris Broussard jumped on his show, obviously one of the shows he's on, and started talking about how the NFL is at risk of becoming the NBA was sitting. And where this stems from is obviously this week, you and I included, we were rooting for the Bengals to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And if you watch the game today between the Broncos and the Chiefs, it was not a game, right? The Chiefs sat so many of their guys. It was mostly second stringers, third stringers. The Broncos just did whatever they wanted to. And
Yeah.
so it's frustrating for obviously for Bengals fans, right, who are
Yeah.
rooting for their team to make the playoffs.
Right.
Apparently, it's frustrating for Chris Broussard, who's saying, "Look, you like if you can't just start doing this because who's to say that in week 15 you're not going to start sitting guys?" And for me, Big Z, I don't know, Big Z. I want your clarity on this. What do you think, dude?
I I don't I disagree with him. I think it's a completely different scenario than what you're seeing in the NBA because like these guys are sitting game 35, game 55, like
Right,
for no apparent reason. Like the Chiefs were sitting today, like though it sucks. Like I wish they were able to challenge the Broncos so that
right,
the Bengals could get in. But the Chiefs were sitting there, guys, in the last week of the season because they already locked up the number one seed, and they don't want to risk any guys getting hurt.
right.
And in football, like there's way more of a chance that your big star is going to get hurt in any given game than basketball, in my opinion. And so they don't want to risk that for the playoffs. And this is a
Right.
historical thing. Any team that has their seed locked up in the last week, they always sit their guys. This is a new thing, Chris
Right.
Broussard. This has always been rampant in the NFL. It's not like Patrick Mahomes is sitting out week 15,
No.
right? And or like no, it's they already locked it up. They're safe. They're good to go. They don't want to risk any injury. And I think it's as simple as that. And there's no way that the NFL is going to risk becoming the NBA. There's no way. So
No,
yeah, though it sucks for Bengals fans, I know that they're frustrated for it, but like they would do the same thing if they were in that position.
all right, and let's not forget, like the other thing that Chris Broussard's not considering is not that long ago, right? Just like last week, the Chiefs played, right? If you look at it,
Right.
it was insane. They played December 8th, December 15th, December 21st, and then December 25th, right? So like in a span of like 11 or whatever days it is, they played 4 games.
Yeah.
Like that's what they're asked to do because they had to play on Christmas, they had to play on Saturday, they had to play on Sunday, they had to play all these games, right? And so when we're talking about rest, we're talking about a very physical sport, much more physical, I would say, than the NBA in large part, right? Your job is to hit somebody. Obviously, in the NBA, if somebody hits you like that, it's a foul, right? And they
Yeah.
stop doing that. Don't do that. Stop it, right? Like there's jumping, it's physical. I get it, but
Yeah.
the physicality that these guys are going through week in and week out, 100% Big Z. And the other thing is, again, like you said, we're seeing load management in the first month of the NBA.
Exactly.
Like we're seeing
Exactly.
load management like game 7. Somebody's like, "Oh, help! It's our first back-to-back. Okay, let's start figuring out
Gotta
the load
sit out.
management. Got to
It's too
sit out."
much.
Like we're talking about week 17, right?
Right.
And I thought probably the most ridiculous part of this argument when he's like, "Well, what's the point of even playing 17 games? Like, how? Okay, but what's your solution to this? Right? Like if you go to 16 games, the same thing's going to happen.
The same
right?
thing it's always
somebody-
happened. Like
Right.
as a
Somebody's
child, I
gonna-
remember this. Like
week 15.
the last week, it always happened. Like you always see your second stringers play, and like even with the 16 game schedule, I'm just thinking he's probably upset because he probably chose the Bengals to make the playoffs, like in his preseason poll or something, and he's just
Right.
like mad about it. I don't know, but like it's a bad argument. Like there's no way that the NFL is in any danger of just dipping down to what the NBA has become.
No,
Yeah, I know
100%.
this I can't. This is very warranted by the Chiefs to do what they needed to do. Like, look at the Packers today,
Right.
right? Like, they lost Christian Watson to a knee injury, like on the
He's
last
gone.
game of the season. Like, it's terrible. Like,
Right.
they've lost another weapon. They're even more one dimensional now. Josh Jacobs more reliant on him going into the playoffs because Christian Watson was playing in a game that probably really didn't matter for them. And
Right.
so,
And they still
yeah,
lost.
and they still lost.
That's the killer right there.
And that's exactly that's the kicker. So yeah, it's a bad argument by Broussard. Though I like a lot of his takes, this one's a bad one.
This one just it was completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
As I was listening to it, I was like, dude, come on, man. Like, this is completely different. When you're talking about Mahomes getting a day off finally, like he earned it,
Yeah.
right? They went
They earned it.
15-2. Like, you earned this, right?
Yep.
I agree with you. Let's talk about some Brock Bowers. Listen, we talk about security W's. We talk about security L's.
Yeah.
I could not bring myself, Big Z, to put Brock Bowers in the security W because I just can't give the Raiders a W. Like, I just think that organization is still so dysfunctional that it would be like, I can't say that. Like, I would love to say, hey, the Raiders secured the W. Look, he broke the record, right? He broke the record that Puka Nacua had just set. And unfortunately for Neighbors also broke that record, but he's not going to be remembered because Brock Bowers beat his record, which is a bummer for him. But you're not going to I'm not going to give the Raiders a W. There's nothing about this season for the Raiders, a 4-13 season, that is warranting of a W, right? Like, they're in shambles, right? They don't know if they have a head coach, right? Like, is it time to move on? Their running back situation, they're watching Josh Jacobs run all over the field for the Packers. Like, oh, we don't need that guy. Whatever, dude. He's washed. We're good with our guys, right? And you bring in. There's no part of the Raiders I get a W for, Big Z. But credit to Brock Bowers. He did great.
Let's give Brock Bowers the W. Like, the name, the man, Brock Bowers, the W. Like, that's a huge feat.
Solely him.
Like, and with on such a trash can of a team as the Raiders are, to get that record, that's insane to me. So to have Aiden McConnell, Gardner Minshew, and another quarterback, I don't even know who it was, throwing to him and still be able to break that record, that's a feat in and of itself. So let's give Brock Bowers, the man, the tight end, the player, a W.
The credit he deserves.
Not the Raiders.
And by the way, I forgot to mention this. I saw it on my notes right here. My last point about why that was a dumb argument from Chris Broussard about, like, oh, what are we going to do? We can take out week 17. This is why none of us want our fantasy playoffs to end on the last week of the season.
Right. Exactly.
If this was a new thing, all of us would have our fantasy playoffs end the last week of the season. None of us do that.
That's a great argument.
If you're in a league, by the way, that ends or goes to the last week of the season, what are you doing? Like, come on, son. Get out of that.
Commissioner. You got to talk to the commissioner.
You got to figure that out. But yeah, shout outs to Brock Bowers, the man, by himself.
The man.
Well done, sir. The man. Legend. The tight end. Yes, absolutely. All right. Moving on to some teams that actually did secure the W, Big Z. We love us some teams that secured the W. You know, I was going here first. This is going to be more of like a season take. Usually Big Z and I will go, we'll look at some of the games. We'll be like, man, this team really balled. This team really put their foot on their opponent's neck. Like, this team really just handled business, right? We talked about last week, man, these teams went full holly jolly. Like, it just depends what we're talking about. But tonight, the secured W is going to be more of like a season look, right? This is the last week of the season. We're going into the playoffs. So these are the teams that really secured the W for the whole seasons. I'm starting off right here with Baker Mayfield, the Bucs trusting Baker. Last year, he had a great year. Didn't end the way they wanted it to, right? But they're like, nope, you're our guy. We've seen enough. And Big Z, I don't know if you watched the game today, but today was the tail of the tape from the entire season, right? There was a stretch there where they were losing to what? Kansas City, 1 point. Eagles, 1 point. Like, just like 1 or 2 possessions, like really just right there. They were not getting blown out by a single opponent. They were right there. They were right on the cusp, but they were just losing really close games. Today, Baker's like, nah, we're not doing it. 20-yard run, 30-yard run, just breaking out. I mean, that touchdown to Bucky Irving, absolutely insane. Breaks up the right side, pitches it back to Bucky. I was just completely willing his team to win. And I think huge W to the Bucs for trusting Baker.
I love it. I mean, we talked about it this whole year. We probably sound like Baker fanboys at this point, but we are. But we love him. I mean, and that's you reap what you sow, right? And that's what you get when you completely, you give everything, your whole franchise, you put your whole franchise and your trust into that quarterback. And he rewarded them today for that. It looked like a really, really bad game from the get-go, like up through the first three
Oh
quarters.
yeah,
Like the Bucks offense was just not rolling.
awful.
But Bakered in the fourth quarter, and he came through. Right, he trusted his guts, he trusted his guys, and Bulls trusted him, and they clinched a playoff spot. Right, and again, though it's the Saints, like they played a divisional game. Like you don't ever take those games for granted. Like
Yeah.
those teams know each other so well. And so the fact that he came through for them in such a big spot and got Mike Evans his 1,000-yard rushing or receiving season, got him that $3 million bonus, even better. So yeah, big W for them. I love that they gave him that contract extension. Finally, he's found a home there, and he's doing well for them. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do in the playoffs.
They need to bring back the commercials where he is at house. Like that is stadium is his house.
Yeah,
I love those
yeah,
commercials. Bring back those commercials. Those commercials are amazing. Tampa Bay is now his house. Let him have the
right.
keys to the house. Start filming those commercials. Another shout out to a guy we've been on all season. The Manders going with Daniels, right? There was great debate. Who's
Such
the
a great
best?
pick.
Who's the best? Who's not the best? What have you? I mean, Bears fans at this point have to be wondering, right? I mean, this is a Manders team. Let's not pretend. This is a Manders team. I posted this on Twitter just the other day on our Brevity Sports Twitter. Go give us a follow if you haven't already. Brevity Sports. This is a Manders team that was in shambles last year.
Right.
Shambles. They were awful, right? And now
Right.
all of a sudden they've completely turned it around. They're on their way to the playoffs, right? They're 12-5. I think last year they had 5 wins total, I think. Right?
Yep.
It was right in that ballpark. And so this idea that if you're the Bears, some small part of you has to be looking at this kid like, oof, wow, did we maybe make the wrong call? I don't know. But he looks fantastic. Shout out to the Manders for going with Daniels. I know you love him too, Big Z.
Oh, I mean, we've been talking about it. I mean, even before the draft happened, we were begging the Bears, like, at least look into taking this guy. Like, this guy has played in so many games, his leadership capabilities, everything, right? Like, the list goes on and on. And the Commanders were just so nervous that the Bears may take this guy, right? Like in the draft, like, and like once the Bears took Williams, they were like, yes, we got our guy, we got our franchise quarterback. Like,
Yep.
we are going to make the playoffs this year. And I just love that, they, again, talking about a team giving a quarterback control, they give this guy so much control. Like you could tell, like he runs that offense. He has no fear in him, and he does exactly what he was doing in college, right? Whether it's through the run game, through the pass game.
Right.
Like, he's just a really, really smart quarterback, and he's very confident, and he runs the team and he leads the team. And that's the biggest difference between him and Caleb Williams, is that I think that Jaden Daniels is like a real leader, and people, his teammates see that and they feed off of that and they play for him. Right. And so, yeah, huge W for the Commanders. They have a bright future ahead of them for sure.
Absolutely, man. Great point. And he is a leader. We talked about it just last week, right? Game on the line. We felt Jay Daniels got this, right? Like everybody was cool as a cucumber. He's going to win the game. Sure enough, he does. Another team that went out and got their guy last year, they were just in turmoil. It just seemed like, how could the Broncos possibly turn this around when they have this much money still tied up in Russell Wilson? The Broncos go get their guy, Bo Nix. And this was a guy that so many people were low on. I sat here before the season like, I do not understand, right? There was a point at which people had projected him to go to the second round. Like, what are you looking at? Like, I don't understand. He was successful at Auburn. He was more successful at Oregon. He's seen all sorts of defenses. He has all this great experience, which is the opposite of what we're seeing in guys like Anthony Richardson, right? Trey Lance, where it's like, wait, do you actually know how to play this position and like read defenses? Like, it kind of doesn't seem like you do at times, right? It's one of the big advantages we talk about with Brock Purdy, right? When he's healthy and doing his thing, he had that much experience at college. And you see a lot of the same things in Bo Nix. The Broncos, they go with Bo. They're headed to the playoffs after a huge win today. And I know that the Chiefs did not start their starters, but way to go out there and handle your business, Big Z.
Right. Yeah, you can't. All you can do is play the team in front of you. And if he had lost that game, like, you would have gave him a lot of crap, right? And so he went out there and he played probably the best game he's played this season and of his career, really.
Yep.
And good for him, man. Like no one had this team going to the playoffs. No one had them winning double digit games. I think their over under was 5.5 this year.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first one. I'll take the L on this one. I gave Sean Payton a lot of crap last year with Russell Wilson and how he handled that. And I said that he was overrated and all this stuff. And I was wrong. Like he coached this team up to become a playoff contender. And he helped Bo Nix develop this year. And so good for Sean Payton, good for Bo Nix. I really hope that he can, build upon the foundation that he's created thus
Right.
far. Like there are some things that he really has to fine tune,
Of
but
course.
overall, like if you're a rookie on this team playing in that division, I mean, he's played a really great rookie season. So props to him, man.
And I think one of the nice things and one of the great things about this is I think they really did help each other. I think
Yeah.
that Sean Payton needs a quarterback who's going to have some fire, who's going to
Yeah.
fire back a little bit. Drew Brees talked about it when Sean Payton was going off on Bo Nix on the sideline. I forget which week it was, but Drew Brees commented like, "Dude, he's going to go after you, but you
Right.
can't be afraid to go back after him." We saw that from Bo. Right,
Yeah.
Sean Payton would be screaming at him, Bo would yell right back, and then 2 seconds later they were like looking over the clipboard together, like, "All right, let's actually figure out what
Yeah.
happened." I'm like,
Right. Right.
where did we go wrong? Shout out to him. And like you said, I mean, 321 yards, 4 touchdowns. And one of the things I've been touting about this kid, I just have to remind everybody, he does not have a running game. This is all Bo Nix. You saw today, he led the team with 47 yards rushing. There is no running game. Shout out to the Broncos. Way to go. This one's yours, Big Z. You brought this up, and I loved it. Chargers trusting Jim.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
I love it. I thought when Jim Harbaugh was hired that team is that they are a playoff team. And like think about it, man. Like they lost Keenan Allen. Like they're one of the best receivers in Chargers history. They lost Keenan Allen because
Yeah.
he didn't want to take a pay cut, right?
Yeah.
And so, but they had to bring. It wasn't just Keenan Allen. They had to bring in a guy who was going to reset their whole culture, and that's what Jim Harbaugh did.
Yeah.
As a Niners fan, I love Jim Harbaugh because when he came in as a coach back in, the early 2000s or mid 2000s, like the Niners were a 2-win team, right? 2 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins. He came in first season. He redid everything that Alex Smith had ever done. He just erased everything that he did in his previous 5 seasons, and they became a playoff team. They went 13-3, and they lost in the NFC Championship in overtime. So like, this is what I know Jim Harbaugh is capable of. And with a quarterback like Justin Herbert, with the defense around them that they had, and wide receivers and McConkey and Quentin Johnson, all those guys, you just knew that he was going to go in there and just reset every single thing. And so that was just, I think, huge W on there. And I think that they're going to probably win a game or two in the playoffs. I think they have a really good chance of making the AFC Championship game because everything is just so sound, right? Harbaugh just gives this very sound way of coaching. Everything on offense is very controlled. Everything is controlled at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball with Harbaugh. And it's really hard to beat that if everyone is on the same page. So I'm taking them to win at least one game. Spoiler, but yeah, I love it. I love this move for them, and it was worth the money. It was worth the money.
You jump ahead. We'll go into playoff matchups in just a second. You hold on there, sir. But yes, I 100% agree, Big Z. You made all these valid points. Let's not forget. Let's give Jim his flowers. It's not just him, right? I mean, you talk about they lost Auckland. This team was Eckler, it was Keenan Allen, and it was Mike Williams for years. True. And they're all gone. All of them. Right? The only one he had left was Justin Herbert and Dobbins, and none of us knew what that was going to be like. And yet, here they are. I absolutely love that take, Big Z. The Lions and the Chiefs get a bye. Shout out to them. Obviously, the best 2 teams in the NFL much of the way, 15-2. I do have to give out the Lions defense with Anzalone versus without Anzalone. I thought, right, when Aiden Hutchinson went down, I thought for sure this is the most important guy on their team. And I got to say, I think I was wrong. I think that after watching how this team operates, I think Anzalone may be the most important piece of this team because their defense looked completely different. I mean, the Vikings could do nothing.
Sam Darnold looked like Jets. Sam Darnold tonight. Yeah. He looked bad.
We just went from last year, like Sam Darnold's obviously going to get re-signed. Like, maybe JJ, maybe give him a shot. Maybe give him a shot. You know?
Yeah, maybe try him out.
maybe roll him out there. But I mean, Anzalone absolutely fantastic. Shout out to you, Lions and Chiefs fans. I mean, the Chiefs, Big Z, they didn't look good most of the year, but they just do it.
But they're 15-1. Like you can't hate. You know,
Can't
you can
hate.
say whatever you want, but they won 15 games. So I can't say anything. Like they were one of 3 teams to not score 30 points in a game this year.
Yeah.
The other 2 teams were like, 2 wins or 3 wins, but they had 15 wins. It's just Patrick Mahomes, man. Like he didn't have the best year, but he comes through when it counts, when it
I know
matters,
it's
right?
so funny. Jason, I was talking to Jason this week, and he like obviously after was Burrow had like an incredible game, and he's
Yeah,
like, obviously he's put together this incredible stretch. He's like, "Are you ready? Are you finally ready to say that Burrow is the best quarterback in the league?" And I'm like, "Look, I know it's really easy for us to get caught up in fantasy, and especially us. We love fantasy. It's really easy to get caught up and start thinking that the best quarterbacks in fantasy are the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and like in the moment, it's like no." And he's like, "Really? How can you say that?" I was like, "Dude, until Patrick Mahomes ain't in the league, he's the guy." Right?
right,
It's really easy to get caught up in numbers and look at this flash and look at what he's doing with this receiver and this guy's unstoppable and that guy's unstoppable. At the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes already has rings.
right,
He's got
right,
rings, right? They're going for
right.
this is the three-peat year, right?
This
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 is
is the 3P year.
this
Yeah,
is the three-peat year. I mean, the fact that they're that's even in the conversation.
yeah.
He is
I
the
mean,
best
Patty
quarterback in the league.
Mahomes. I mean, yeah, he makes plays. I mean, he's clutch, right?
Yeah,
But he's one of the in this generation of quarterbacks. He was drafted into like the most perfect system,
right,
like Andy Reid. Also on the opposite side of the ball, Steve Spagnuolo's defense. Like that
right.
guy is the best defensive coordinator by far, hands down in this league. And his defense never really gets credit. It's always
Yeah,
Patrick Mahomes, but the defense is what keeps them in these games. And right. And so, not to say like system people like blah, 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 but like I'm just saying he has a lot of help around him, even though like he doesn't have a huge name wide receiver. He has a lot of other things going right that most teams don't. Right. He has all 3 facets of the game going really well. And so that really helps him out. And there's a really well ran organization.
the
So
great.
yeah,
It's the
yeah,
perfect fit. You can't take anything. Look, what everybody has a system. We talked about it before. He is the perfect fit for that system. Like
right,
that is just,
right.
and until that changes, he's the guy for me, 100%. The
Yep.
last W that I saw coming because I drafted. No, I didn't. None of us saw it coming. Okay, if you're sitting here and you're saying you saw this coming, you're a liar. Okay, because nobody saw this. We thought he could be good. Like, let me just be clear. Me and Big Z sat here and told you this could be amazing. This could
Yep.
be a great matchup. But no one saw this. No one saw Saquon Barkley on the verge of breaking the rushing record. Nobody saw
Right.
him being this incredible. We all knew he was really good. We all knew he was really talented. But again, after watching him on a Giants team that was just so dysfunctional, we were kind of like, is he really going to be? And yes
Yeah.
is the answer. He is really that dude. Shout out to the Eagles for going to get their guy. He has completely changed this organization. He has completely changed this team over just one season. All of a sudden, we'll get into it in a bit, but the matchup, this looks way different because of Saquon Barkley, Big Z.
Right. It's not even the Eagles get the W because of Saquon's ability on the field. Really, like his stats, right? Like though they're great stats, they're flashy stats. It's really what he does for that whole offense,
Right.
right? What he does for Jalen Hurts. That
Yep.
Jalen Hurts doesn't have to be a quarterback that he's not. I think that's the biggest thing. Jalen Hurts doesn't have to throw 50 times a game. Jalen Hurts can do whatever he needs to do now, maybe throw 20, 25 times a game, use his legs a little bit of the time, and then give the rest to Saquon behind him. Like that's what changed. Like he changed the whole culture and he changed the whole way that they play it on offense. And it opens guys up like Devonta Smith, like AJ Brown, because they the defense has to account for Saquon coming out of the backfield, whether it's in the pass game or in the run game. And so there's so many things that Kellen Moore can create now in that offense that helps that team. And so I think it goes way beyond the numbers for Saquon, and it just goes, and it really is just how many different ways that he can get you and how he can beat you. And so that's why I think that they get the W. Like they were smart to pay him the amount of money they did, and it wasn't even that much. And so yeah,
No,
huge W for them. Man.
worth it.
Saquon's just a
Absolutely worth
great
it.
player.
Absolutely worth it, especially when you get running backs at such a premium right now. I mean, Saquon, he's underpaid, right? He's the best player on this team, and he's not
Oh yeah.
paid like it. Certainly not paid like it. And if we're giving the Eagles the W, guess what that means? Time to move on to secure the L, right? These guys
Secure the L.
secured the L for the entire season. They locked it up, right? They did not make good decisions. We got to start off, of course, with the Giants, right?
Yep, it's
I
the
mean, that
Giants.
video of the GM, it's all right. It's enough to fire him, right? With
Yeah,
him sitting there on Hard Knocks, like this is the year of Jaden Dan, or this is the year of wow,
Daniel
Jaden Dan.
Jones.
This is the year of Daniel Jones, right?
Right.
Like, I, how I don't know that we could find a worse take, Big Z. I mean, it was
I
before
don't
the
know.
season. Is there a worse take? I don't think there is. I don't think there
I
is.
don't. I don't think so. And like to defend, I mean, and it makes it even worse because they cut Daniel Jones by the end of the season, or with a few weeks left. But to defend paying Daniel Jones $40 million a year and not paying Saquon $12 million, like,
Right.
come on. And even the owner, Mara, was like, dude, do not lose this guy. Like, he is like the most popular player on the field. But shout out to him, like he doesn't get involved like Jerry Jones does or Artie Moreno on the Angels does. But like that's like the one time like he should have been involved. Like he's like, no, don't lose this. Like
Right.
let pay him whatever he wants. Right. Um, just such a bad look, man. Like I don't know like how they come back from that. I don't know what they're gonna
Well, they
do. They're gonna have
don't.
the number one
They
pick.
they
It's
don't.
it's it's
They're
it's bad. It's bad.
Showing and Dayball are gone. Right. Like this decision cost him his job. Right. Like
Well,
he
I don't
won't have.
know.
It's got
I
to.
mean, yeah, you'd think so, but I don't know. Is it? I don't,
They're supposed to meet.
they're
The last we heard about it was NBC Sports about 9 hours ago. Came out and said that Joe Schoen and Brian Dable Schwartz says that it's believed that they're going to meet with ownership separately and soon. Right, the decision is going to be made soon, so they can figure it out. At the end of the day, like I wouldn't. I hate being that guy. I'm not calling for his job. I want to be clear. I'm not calling for his job. What I'm saying is the decision he made may very
yeah,
well cost him his job.
right. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
this
It's fair.
idea that you don't know that Saquon Barkley. Look, this I just said it. The Eagles are a way better team. They have so many talented players. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, right? Jalen Hurts. There's so many talented offensive weapons, and Saquon is better than all of them. He's the best offensive weapon on that team. Period. Period. Better than all of them. If he's the best on that team, he certainly would have been the best on your team. So I think it's going to cost him his job. You hate to see it, but I mean, again, you definitely secured the L. Someone else, we got to talk about you, Big Z, and I'm going to let you lead this one off because this is your squad, Big Z. You're rooting for them. I was rooting for them. I thought they were fun. You thought they were fun. You've been Joe Burrow's one of his biggest defenders. You openly on his podcast said, look, he's got to be considered in the MVP, and yet here they are
Yeah.
and secured the L's because what? The start of their season, dude. I mean, what happens at the start of the season for the Bengals?
I mean, Joe, it wasn't really on Joey B. like,
Yeah.
like, in my opinion, they had a lot of weird stuff. They lost, I think, like they were showing it last like 4 or 5 close games, like one possession games. Like
Yeah.
a kick was blocked, like a field goal, like a 28-yard was blocked. They lost to the Patriots game 1. I think you could put that one on Joey because like that game was bad on offense.
That's the
But other
biggest
than
game.
that, I just think it was the defense, man. It was the defense did not show up until like the last 2 weeks of the season. Like,
yeah.
honestly. And you can't get much more production out of the offense of what they did. Like with T. Higgins, with Jamar Chase, who got the triple crown as a receiver, and Joey B, who had probably one of the best seasons ever statistically as a quarterback has ever had. But I think just as an organization, you have to take the L. You have to really look at, where you're spending your money. You have to be willing to spend money on guys on the other side of the ball, on the defense side of the ball. And they got to stop with this drama with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and the wideouts. Like, if they're going to hold out, like either get them out of the house, ship them out for draft picks or players, or give them this contract extension. Like, don't let this stuff linger because that stuff seeps into the rest of the team.
Yep.
No,
Yep.
even if you don't think so, it truly does. It has an effect on these people.
Yeah.
And I think maybe there's like a little hangover from that to open up the first couple of weeks of the season, the Jamar Chase drama. So ownership has to do something. They have to figure it out. And so, yeah, big L.
Big L. Big
Because they
old
turned it
fat
on, man.
L.
They turned it on.
Dude, to me, I don't understand how Zach Taylor, like, he's a good coach. I'm not going to sit here and say Zach Taylor's not a good coach, but at some point, someone's got to sit this guy down and be like, look, I need you to have them ready week 1. Like, whatever's happening, I need you to have them ready week 1. I agree with you, the whole Jamar Chase thing. Remember, he was sitting out. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? That obviously did not help. But, yeah, when you look at their losses, easily the worst loss of the season was the Patriots. right?
Yeah.
That week one loss 16-10, because all of a sudden, if they're 10-7, they're in. If they win that one
Right.
game, they're in. That was the difference
Yep.
between not being in and being in. And it was week
Yep.
one, and it was a very beatable team, right? The
Yeah.
Patriots, I remember they won like 2 games, and we were all like, oh my goodness, because the Patriots act, and then we were like, oh no, they can't. They
Yeah.
can't. It just turns out the Bengals just were that bad to start the season.
Right.
Like you cannot start that poorly, okay? Because
Yeah.
you're shooting yourself in the foot. All the people who are upset about the Chiefs sitting these guys. If you just win one of the Patriots, the Chiefs, or the Manders, right, to start the game, like it's a different season,
Right.
right? Right? I mean, it
Right.
really, again, it's got to be the Patriots, right? They lost to the Steelers 44-38. That's not obviously on Joey B. Lose the Chargers 34-27, the Ravens 35-34. I mean,
Right.
they're scoring points, but at the end of the day, the start of the season, man, you've got to figure it out. And it seems like it happens every year for them, and they just were not quite able to get
Yeah.
over the hump. But it's definitely something they have to look forward to, look into next year. And then obviously another one secured the L. Big Z, we talked about it in the draft, how stupid this decision was. And the comparison was made for this team as it was to Green Bay, right? The Falcons GM sat down and said, hey, listen, look at what Green Bay's done, right? It worked, right? They have Aaron Rodgers, they have their guy, they get Love to back him up. He takes his time, he figures it out, and becomes this great quarterback. And we were kind of like, yeah, but they draft really young guys. Penix is
Right.
not young. Penix is not, he's like Bo Nix. Like,
Right.
you didn't draft Bo Nix. You didn't draft a guy like Penix to sit behind somebody. That's not who, like Anthony Richardson is young. Get him to sit behind somebody. Get him to sit to learn the defenses. That's fine. They're young. Penix and Bo Nix, they're not nearly as young. You got these guys to start tomorrow. And that's what we've seen. I mean, look at the Falcons, right? They lost the close one today, but their offense seemed to really begin to click,
Yeah.
right? They gave the Manders everything they could handle. They're keeping up with the Panthers. They're scoring points, right? Drake London's bought it. It just seems like it's a more positive vibe. And the question, I mean, at some point, you have to look at this team and think, man, if Penix had started this whole season, I posted on Twitter, I'll be honest, I think they're in the playoffs, Big Z.
It's tough for me. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Like Kirk Cousins, like historically has been a really good quarterback. I truthfully believe that he wasn't fully recovered from his Achilles. Like it takes usually about
That's a great
a year
point.
and a half,
That's a great
2 years.
point.
You just saw him like he wasn't able to move like you used to do, and obviously some of that goes away with a surgery of an Achilles, like the recovery. But I believe that he goes on to another team next year and that he does really well. I think he's going to have a bounce back year because he's going to have another offseason to fully prep and to heal. And so I think that was part of it. And also another part of it why they didn't play him is because they paid him $60 million this season.
Yeah,
Like you can't bench a guy. You can't. If you're paying him $60 million to sit on the bench, like you need to see if you can get every single cent back in that investment in W's, right? And he didn't. And they finally made the call. I honestly thought it was pretty crazy that they admitted that they were wrong with 2 weeks left in the season and they went to Penix. I honestly thought it was, or 3 weeks. I didn't think that he would actually start this year. So I actually give him credit for sitting Cousins, and they actually gave that team a chance to get in the playoffs at that point, right? Because there were so many other factors why they should have started Cousins going forward. But like in the next couple of years, like you have a bright future, man. Like if you have Drake London in Dynasty League, like bro, this kid is good. Michael Penix, this guy is a great quarterback. We've seen it. He's electrifying for the offense. Bijan Robinson behind him. It's going to be a good team. You got to shore up that defense, but yeah, it's a tough call for me. I don't know. It's not as black and white to me, at least, for that decision.
I hear what you're saying because of what they paid him, right? Like, but that was the whole thing going into this. It's like if you were going to have Kirk Cousins, then he should not have gotten Michael Penix.
Right.
Like if you were going to give him that money, why did you draft Penix?
Well, I think this is why, because maybe it wasn't healthy. Maybe they weren't fully bought into his health. And it's like, well, okay, now we got Michael Penix.
$60 million is an expensive lesson. That is an expensive lesson. I mean, Terry Fontaine, I mean, that's why they're talking about Terry, right? Fontenot. Somebody let me know on YouTube. That's what they're talking about. I mean, he is another guy that's on the bubble, right? He's another guy that is going to be discussed. He's going to be looked at because of decisions like this. We're going to give Kirk Cousins $60 million. He's not going to finish the year. That's hard. That's a hard thing to come back from.
It is hard. Yeah, it is.
And of course, last but not least, Mitchie's going to hate this one, but the Steelers, man, they look terrible, Big Z. They look awful. Like I can't think of a worse way to go into the playoffs.
I I think the Arthur Smith effect is finally hitting them.
I think the Arthur Smith is finally
I
here.
don't know. People were like, yeah, Arthur Smith as a head coach is bad, but as an offensive coordinator, he's really good. I'm like, did you see the Falcons last year? Like, did you see that they never used Bijan Robinson? That they
Right.
didn't never utilize Drake London or Kyle Pitts? Like, did you see that? And so, like, I just think
Yeah.
that he reverted back to what he was the last couple of seasons with the Falcons. Najee Harris is tired, like, and he just keeps giving him the ball. I'm like, dude, stop giving Najee Harris the ball. Throw it to George, and George Pickens is over there trying to pick fights with the fans.
Gosh.
And he's dropping passes, and people are all on Russ. And Russ made a little some bad plays last night, but like the last throw that Pat Fryermuth was right on the money. Like it was leading, and he just dropped it. So like it wasn't behind him; he was leading them. So yeah, man, I don't know exactly what's going on, but they got to figure out that offense pretty quick. And like I don't know, just let Russ cook. I think is what his saying
Pickens
is.
had 3 drops that were like that I watched at least that were just egregious,
Yeah,
that were horrible. And Mike Tomlin, you just got to reset, man. You just got to
yeah,
reset. You know, that's the moment when you're like a coach, you know, and like I sat down with my little leaguers, we're heading to the playoffs, and I'm like, guys, we got all the pieces right here. I know it's cliche. I know it sounds
yeah.
lame, but we have all the pieces right here.
Right,
You guys are talented. We just need to do the small thing, right? We need to catch the ball. We need to make good throws. We need to get the ball out in front of the runners, right? A lot of the kids will try to like, oh, he's taking off. I'm going to throw him out at second. It's like, no, if he's already around second, throw to third, right? Throw it in front of him. We don't take second base.
right.
We're not giving you third, right? And so that, to me, the Steelers, they have to get back to the basics, right? They have to get back to the basics. Like you said, Najee does look a little bit worn to me. I mean, he's got 1,000 yards rushing last 4 seasons. Very
Right.
impressive for him, but they really got to figure something out. I do think it's too little too late. Let's start talking about it. We're looking at the playoffs, and the first playoff matchup we're talking about, Steelers and the Ravens. Big Z, this ain't going to be a game. This is not going to be a game, and Vegas doesn't have it that way either. Baltimore's favored 9.5.
9.5. Wow.
Nine and a
That is
half, dude,
insane.
for a playoff game.
I, I don't if you're betting that game, I would take the points and like take the Steelers because that type of spread is insane. And we all know Lamar Jackson in the playoffs historically is not Lamar Jackson in the regular season.
No.
I'll take the Ravens to win the game, but not by 10 points. So if you're betting, I would pick the points for the Steelers, but I'm taking the Ravens to actually win that game. Maybe by like 3 to 7 points, somewhere around there.
By the way, if you lose that bet, we are not responsible. Let me be
No,
clear.
we're not. We're not. That's just
Legal
my
disclaimer. These are all opinions. Don't come for
Yeah.
us. All right. Don't at us. I lost my money. Okay, well, that sucks. Stop betting as much. Like,
Yeah, don't
if
bet.
you're betting so much money that it hurts to lose, don't bet. Right? Like
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
like rule of thumb. Bet money.
Yeah.
If you're gonna bet like $20 and pick a sick parlay. Right? Like that way, one day
Right.
when you hit, so you get like $7,000 just for doing nothing. Right? Because you got all the
Right.
games right.
Right.
That's way
There you
more
go.
fun. That's way more
Perfect.
fun. And then you're not
Yeah, way
crying
more
about it.
fun.
You know. It's like, all right, I can't buy In-N-Out this week. Bummer. You know what I mean? Don't bet that. There you go. There's Fredo's life lesson for the night. Baltimore obviously is going to win this game. I agree, though. I think 9.5. I think 9.5 is a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
You got the Chargers and you got the Texans, and I gotta say, Big Z, if I'm a Chargers fan, I couldn't be more enthused that this is a
Yes.
first round matchup. This is great for you.
Yes, the best freaking opponent out of all the AFC teams that you could have gotten is the Texans. The Texans, I mean, I don't know. The Texans are like one of those teams you're just like, they were just there, like 10-7,
Just
like, yeah, they made it. That's not where you want to be going to the playoffs. I think the Chargers easily take this one. Again, what we talked about, they have an ability to just control the game at
yep.
both sides of the line of scrimmage, and I think that's really going to help them against the Texans teams that's really reeling right now in multiple areas on their team. So I'm going Chargers.
It's a great the Chargers have a great run defense. And if Joe Mixon is not able to go, if he's not able to do his thing, the
Right.
Texans have struggled all year long. They need
Yeah.
Joe Mixon to do his thing to have any shot at this. And now again, you hate to say it, obviously we wish him the best, but Tank Dell being out as well. I mean, yeah, at the start of the year, you thought Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs. Like this has to work. And now you got Nico Collins, who's still, in my opinion, one of the best receivers in the league. Having said that, everybody needs some pieces around them to help them out. I mean, look at Justin Jefferson with Addison, right? Like you need those pieces to help you out. This is an absolute gem of a matchup for the Chargers. The Chargers are actually favored by 3, so they are expecting this one to be close, and I do agree with that. Last matchup in the AFC, is the Broncos, and they got a tough matchup of going
Oh,
to the Bills. Buffalo favored by 9. That seems a little big to me. I'm not gonna lie, the whole 9 that seems a little big to me only because I think the Broncos have a really good defense. They got a stout defense,
right,
but I think what's gonna bite them in the butt here is what I just talked about. The Broncos do not have a good run game,
right.
and I don't think you're going into Buffalo and winning without a good run game.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I also think that Josh Allen is just going to be playing with a mission. Like this is his year. Like if any other year, like this is you have to win it this year, right? Like you have to prove all those
Yeah,
haters wrong.
yeah.
And I just think that the Broncos just got a bad pull, right, with playing the Bills.
I mean, if
And
I'm the
and you know,
Broncos,
and I
I'd
and I
rather
think that
go
experience
anywhere else.
matters.
Yeah, no,
Experience
100%.
matters here too.
100%.
Um, and it's nothing against Bo Nix, and it's nothing against the Broncos as a whole. But like you said, like if they can't control the game with the run game, and keep the ball out of Josh Allen's hands,
Nope.
it's over. It's over.
You couldn't have picked a worse possible matchup for the Broncos. But if I'm the Broncos, I'd rather go to the Steelers or the Ravens. I literally,
100%.
anywhere else,
100%.
anywhere
Yeah.
else. Texans, I would have been a dream for them.
Oh, I know. I know.
But you got to go play the Bills, and without a run game, I just don't see it. If you're a Broncos fan, you got to hope that Javonte Williams really. I mean, that all of a sudden it's like he shakes the rust off and he's back in
Yeah, you
like the
never know.
biggest
He's had a
way.
few of those games this year. Couple.
Yeah, so you got to hope he's locked in. He's locked and loaded. Going over to the NFC, let's start with, in my opinion, the easiest matchup that's going to surprise some people. The easiest one to pick for me, Packers at Eagles.
Yeah,
I don't have the Packers having a shot in this game. The Eagles defense is dominant. They've
it's
looked
really good.
fantastic. They look great. The Packers just lost their deep threat. I think that really, really hurts. And again, as good as Josh Jacobs is, he's not Saquon. So Saquon to me is going to dominate this game. I got the Eagles. This one is 4.5 to Philadelphia. How see this one going, Big Z?
Yeah, I'm going with you. I agree 100%. I have Eagles probably winning by 5 to 7 points. And Saquon doing his thing. Hasn't played in the playoffs in a while, so he's ready to get out there after, especially off a week of rest. I think that's really going to help him. And then also, Jordan Love got hurt today too. There, his elbow thing on his
What?
throwing arm. They say he'll be okay, but he had to leave the game. So,
Really?
um, yeah. So I don't know, man. I know it's a rematch of that game in Brazil, like I think week 1 or 2 of this year, which is a
Right.
really good game.
Right.
But yeah, with all these injuries for the Packers, I think the Eagles easily beat them.
I think the biggest tell when you look at the Eagles about how good they are is the fact that Jalen Hurts got hurt against the Manders. They barely lose that game 36-33. Right. And
Right.
then I don't care how bad you are with a backup quarterback going to the Cowboys, beating them 41-7, just beating the brakes off them boys with your backup quarterback. The
Who
Eagles
had
are
a
a good.
broken ribs going into the game, by
Yeah,
the way.
like the Eagles
Yeah.
are the Eagles are a good team. Like good luck.
Steelers could use someone like that, you know?
Yeah, whew, whew. Ooh, that was cold. That was icy cold. That was Bill's cold right there, Big Z. I'm telling you, but at the end of the day, Packers fans, you had to win today. On some level, you had to win today. You did not want this matchup. If you could have avoided going to play the Eagles, like I saw the funniest video, Annie Auger. She makes these hilarious
Oh,
videos. You guys don't watch her.
she's
She's
hilarious.
so
Yeah.
funny, but she's a big, big Green Bay fan, and she has a video about like how do I feel? You ask. Well, she is like she knows. She knows. Like, what are
Yeah.
we doing? We had to win this game with the last second field goal. You lose to the Bears. Like, come
Yeah.
on,
To
son.
the
You got to
Bears
find
of
a way
all
to win that one.
teams.
You got to
Yeah.
find a way to win that one. I'm excited for this one, man. Manders Buccaneers. I
This is
think this
tough.
is going to be electric. 3.5. When I look at the AFC, it's like I think I can confidently say Chargers over Texans. They just look like they're playing better football. Ravens over Steelers. Bills over Broncos. And you come over to the NFC, like, oh yeah, it's just as easy. Eagles Packers. Wait a minute. Buccaneers Manders. Like this is gonna be a
Yeah.
game, Big Z. This is gonna be a good one.
Yeah, man. I'm making up my mind right now,
Right
and I'm
now. What was
going
that? Wait, pause. Are you like? Did you go Texas on me? Right now?
right now.
Right now. I'm gonna go get me some grits. Go get me a. I don't even know what else. I was gonna try to be more
Barbecue?
country, but I don't. Yeah. What do you cook with grits? I don't know.
Shrimp.
Shrimp,
Shrimp. I've had shrimp and grits
bubble
before.
gum
Yeah.
shrimp. No, that's not
Bubble gum
Texas. That's not.
shrimp.
That's New Orleans. Oh my god. Oh, we're getting way
Terrible,
off the
dude. We're
rails.
just
Here we
offending
go.
so many
This is
people.
awful. We're live. There's nothing we can do. But anyways, so talk to me, dude. What do you think?
Uh, I'm going Manders. I love Jaden Daniels. I love Dan Quinn. And I think just Scary Terry just has a crazy game. He's going to go off. And Eckler's back. I think that adds a huge aspect to their offense in the passing game that they've been missing. He's back from IR. He came back today.
Yeah,
And they looked pretty good. And so I'm going with them. I love Baker, but this is where his story ends for this season.
I totally agree with you. I think the Mariners win this game. I just think they're a good team. They're a really, really good team. The Buccaneers struggled with the Saints today. That has me worried. The Mariners have won some big games. You've just watched them mature.
Yeah.
You've watched them mature. So I do like them in this game. I think it'll be close though. I think the Mariners. I think they squeak it out by
Yeah.
like a field goal.
Yeah. It's gonna be a close game. It's gonna be a good game.
It's going to be a great, great game. Buccaneers fans, by the way, don't take this as if you win, I'll be elated. I will be over the moon.
Yeah.
So like
We're not
if you're
rooting
like,
against you.
you guys were wrong. No, 100% like great. I would
Yeah.
love to see Baker make a run. The problem for me is that there's just been moments, right? The Buccaneers against the Falcons, the Buccaneers today against the Saints. They just look dysfunctional.
Yeah.
What's happening? Like the Manders look good when they lose and when they win. They're putting up points. The Bucks they just like today was inexplicable, man. Like I know it's a divisional game, but they looked really bad. Like
Yeah.
they looked real bad.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. And then
they looked, yeah.
yeah. I mean, you're talking about a Mariners team that's hot. Cowboys 23-19, Falcons 30-24, Eagles 36-33. I mean, they're coming on, they're riding a win streak. They beat the Titans, the Saints, the Eagles, the Falcons, the Cowboys. They're coming in hot. I like to see their hot streak continue. And then of course, the last one, I'm riding. I'm riding with whose house? All right, whose house? Rams house. I'm taking the Rams over the Vikings. What I just saw tonight gives me a lot of hope. I'm not gonna lie to you, Big Z. Last week, when I knew that we would get the loser of tonight's game, right? Vikings versus Lions, I was like, oh my God, what have we done? What have we done? Like, it's over. It's over, Big Z. Like, we have no hope. And then I'm watching this game and I'm like, that looks like the Jets, Sam Darnold. We could beat that guy, right? Like, we talked about it at the beginning of the podcast. Like, all of a sudden, like, JJ, you could kind of tell looking at him, you know what I mean? Like, he's heard all the talk and he's standing off the sideline tonight. His chin was a little bit higher. He's like, maybe I am that dude. You know what I mean? Because the Vikings look bad. So if we could just get pressure on him, I think we can beat them. Let's go. Minnesota is favored, but it is the closest game of the week. 2.5, Big Z.
I agree. I think the Rams got this. I think it just depends on the defense for the Rams. I think offensively, they're going to be fine, like scoring points. Though the Vikings defense is really good, you're going to find ways to score points on them. But it all depends on what pressure you get on Sam Darnold. If you're pressuring him, you saw it tonight. He looks scared and cannot do anything. So I'm taking Rams. I think that they win by a touchdown plus.
100%. Love it. I love it, Big Z. All right. Moving right along. That is your playoff picture. Again, there's games on, I believe they're Saturday and Sunday again, right? So
there's Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Because Saturday, Sunday, Monday, football all week. Moving right along, college football. Wrap it up with some college football, Big Z. Listen, to call targeting or to not call targeting, that is the question. Huge call, Arizona State versus Texas. You and I talked about it. We looked at some of the other targeting, like an even bigger targeting call. In both of our, like, we watched the videos, like, this one looks worse. Like, this one looked worse. This looked like a lot harder of contact, and it wasn't called. And so we got to ask a question, Big Z. Were the refs wrong, or was this just hate on the SEC, or do you just call both? What do you think?
Both things are right. The refs were wrong because that was targeting, and the one before that was targeting. I did a video breakdown, and which I was very proud of. It took me a long time to make, but some guy called me a homer, and I was like, "What?" Like, if I was like,
a homer,
because he was mad. Obviously, he was probably an ASU
but we actively don't like. I mean, I don't think either of us root for like a call. Like, I went to Cal Baptist. Like, I don't have. They didn't.
Right.
They
exactly. Yeah. Like, I wasn't rooting for Texas, and actually, we're big proponents of disliking the SEC. And he was like, "Oh, it is 100%." I was like, "Yeah, it is targeting." If you watch the video, I said it was targeting. Anyways, I think that both were targeting. I think the outrage is coming from it being against not called against Texas, who is an SEC team, and people
Yeah.
really don't. No one likes the SEC. And I really think if you flipped it and ASU was the one to do
Yeah.
that to a Texas player and it wasn't called, and all Texas fans would be up in arms, and people like, no, it's not targeting, blah blah blah. They went to review. I think that the whole conversation would change.
Right.
Um, but that's not to say that it was not targeting. Like if you look at like the letter of the law, it truly was targeting. Like if you look at the playbook, he
Right.
did lead with the crown of his helmet, and he did hit him head helmet to helmet. And it was targeting. So it's tough though, man. It's such a subjective rule, right? And
Right.
so what I talked about in the other video was that the fact that they didn't call the targeting in the previous play, they didn't think it was targeted. They didn't even think like they had to review that. Like I think that kind of set the precedent for the next one. Why they didn't call that, because it's so subjective. It's not black and white to them, right? It's these are human beings, and every ref crew has it has things differently, and
Right.
they look at things differently. And so, um, yeah, yeah, it's tough, man. I think that rule is a stupid rule, anyways, and they should get rid of it because these guys aren't trying to hurt each other anymore, you know. And so I don't know. It's tough. But I do think, to answer your question, sorry for rambling, but it is more hatred of the SEC than the actual non-call, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you got to call them both. I don't mind the targeting when it comes to the one I don't like is when it's like helmet, like lowering your helmet and launching it to somebody. Like I think like
Yeah.
the spearing motion is a big problem, and I think you do want to teach these kids like, hey, dude, stop hitting people in the head.
Right.
Right, like make an effort to hit him in the shoulder, hit him like a little bit lower. But we also, on the flip side of that, we see injuries because of that, right? We see a safety go low at a tight end's knees, and they blow out the knee, right? Like, well,
Right.
I'm not going high on him, so what do you want me to do? So I look, if you're gonna call him, call both. I 100% don't think there's any bias. And my favorite thing about this, when everybody's like super outraged, oh, they stole the game. They went to overtime. What are you
Right.
talking about? Like both teams, like it didn't cost anyone the game. Right?
Right.
They went to overtime, and college football gets it right because we've talked about this multiple times.
Right.
It is the most fair of the overtimes. You
Right.
get a turn, and then you get a turn, and we both start on 20-yard line. Like
I
that
mean,
is
yeah, and they were up by a touchdown, ASU, and it was 4th and 13, and they just left the Texas wide receiver wide open in the end. So they did an all-out blitz, cover zero, and no one was on the guy, and there's a 40-yard pass. It was just like, what are you
which, by
doing?
the
Like
way,
you
like
had it.
if you're gonna stand anywhere, maybe the end zone.
Yeah, maybe the end
Like
zone would be like maybe. Yeah,
maybe
where's the outrage there? I don't. Yeah, it's just
they cost themselves the
it's
game. The point is, Arizona State, you did not
yeah,
lose because of referee. You lost because you gave up just one of the easiest looking touchdowns I've ever seen on 4th and 13.
right.
Like the receiver didn't even like do a cool catch. Like he just sort of like laid down. Like if you watch it, he's like, oh, okay, here we go. Oh, basket catch. Like he just like laid down. Like he's like, all right,
Yep.
got the ball. So
Yeah,
you
I'm
lost.
good.
You lost because of that. Like that, you didn't
Yep.
lose because of any call. The other thing I had to say, this was one of my things, and you made another good video. By the way, your breakdowns are sick. If you're not following us on YouTube, Big Z is putting down the Lord's work, okay, on YouTube. It's like it looks amazing. Some of these breakdowns, I don't know how he does it. Honestly, he posts them and like I post a video and it's like just me talking to my phone. And Big Z's over here like editing. And I'm like, oh my God, like how are you even doing that? Regardless, in Georgia, Notre Dame, you posted a video that was like, this is such an intelligent play from Notre Dame. And it was. It was an extremely
Yeah.
intelligent play from Notre Dame. They put in one personnel, and then they immediately pull all of that personnel and put in a new personnel. And my immediate response was like, that was really smart. 100% very smart. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. My issue was, if you're Georgia, there is no rule that says you have to sprint onto the field to match your substitution. The rule is you have every opportunity
Right.
to match the substitution. So if you're the Georgia coach and they do this, you send out like one lineman and then another lineman,
Right.
and hey, I'm trying to match up. How many times have we seen this done by other coaches where there's like 15 seconds left on the clock and the defenders are just like meandering onto the field
Right.
because of a late switch, right?
Right.
So if you're Georgia, I just didn't understand that. It's not why they lost. It was something I wanted to comment on. Like if you're a coach and you're coaching on any level, like I enjoy watching. Same reason I enjoy watching the MLB or like college baseball, because I get to take it back and be like, oh, dude, that's a sick play, right? Like the first time you're watching like college baseball, especially, or even Little League World Series, which shout out to those kids, where the catcher like stands up, it's a first and third play. Catcher stands up, hucks it to the shortstop who's charging into the infield grass. So the runner from third takes off thinking like, oh, they're never going to get me. Shortstop fires it back to home. Like you could steal those things. So if you're watching and you're coaching, take your time when you're substituting. All right, don't let them pull you into their farce. All right, stand strong.
Right. Right. I mean, I think the genius of it on the Notre Dame side, like it was just so much movement and
It
such
was
a
so
at a
much.
rapid pace where he even like he outsmarted Kirby Smart, right?
Oh yeah.
Like oh yeah, his last name is Smart.
Ooh.
But I just thought that like that was the genius. I think that was part of the plan. It was like, okay, go out there quick, right? And like and freak him out because it was such a tense moment and a big moment in the game in the fourth quarter, right? And they ended up doing what they needed to do on that fourth down. But you're 100% right. Like he didn't have to get his guys go 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 like and like fix his defense. It was just like no, you can those guys can literally walk out on the field and get to the line and it's okay. So, but yeah, I thought that was like part of why Notre Dame did that because it creates a sense of urgency that's not actually there. And
Right.
so that's that. Yeah, it was great. It was great play. Great play. I
It was
love
it
it.
was a great play.
I'm also really happy for Notre Dame. We kind of bashed them for losing Northern Illinois this year.
Yeah, we
Um,
did.
but man, they beat Georgia, and the SEC is down. Everyone's so happy about it, which is great. Everyone's all happy about the SEC going down. But good for them. I'm looking forward to Thursday and Friday this week for sure.
Right. No, 100%. 100%. Shout out to them. If you didn't know, if you didn't watch any college football, you're just living under a rock. Texas took out Arizona State. Ohio State, I mean, just beat the tar out of
Clobbered
Oregon. I
Oregon.
mean,
Yeah.
Oregon, it was sort of one of those moments where, like, hey, ref, can we start over? Like, we didn't know the game started. Like,
Yeah.
they were down 35-0 so fast. Like, it was like, what happened?
It was so I mean, we're gonna get into it, but I just think it was the buys, man. Like
Well,
all the
look at
teams
it.
that
Penn
had to
State.
buy.
Penn State beats the tar out of Boise State. Did not even look
Yeah,
good, which I don't know. That was probably the one where it's like Penn State's defense, they literally
yeah,
just sat back and were
right,
like, we're going to stop Genty. And like, he's not going to beat us. So
right,
somebody else is going to have to do it. And he still had a decent game.
right,
And then obviously Notre Dame beats Georgia. But with that, Big Z, exactly like you just said, all the buys went down. And we actually saw something similar in baseball up until this
right,
year, right? Since they instituted the buys, the team that was getting the buy was going down. Right. Like last year, one team who had the buy got through. And then in baseball, obviously, this year it completely flipped on its head. The only team that had the bye that didn't make it through was the Phillies. Is college football kind of seeing that same thing where like having the bye is almost it's great because you have the rest and you're further in the tournament, but you have to find a way to stay locked in.
right. I think it's too early to tell at this point, just because this is the first year that the buy has been instituted with the
Right.
expansion of the
Right.
playoffs. Um, but it, like you said, it kind of matches similar patterns, like in the MLB, maybe and NFL. NFL, we've seen it as well. And so, yeah, it is really hard to stay locked in, especially for these college kids, right? Like it's different. Like not saying that they're not focused or anything, but they have a lot of things going on. They have finals, they have all this stuff. Like, oh yeah, we have an extra week to rest, blah blah
Parties.
blah. Parties. It's the holidays at that time too. Um, they're not professional athletes, right? They have a lot of
No.
other obligations to do, and so I think it potentially could hurt you. And I think that those teams that like Oregon, I don't think they should have won their Big Ten conference championship game. Like they should have let it go to Ohio State, and then they
Yeah.
get to play the way like these are the conversations that you're gonna have. Like, should we not play as hard? Like and so we'll see. Time will tell. But as of now, it certainly looks like the bias hurt.
I mean, it's a little bit crazy. It's a
Yeah.
little bit crazy. Um, you got Notre Dame going on with to play Penn State. That's going to be a good one. Penn State's defense, I mean, they smothered Genty. They absolutely smothered him. So that's going
Right.
to be a good one. And Texas versus Ohio State. I mean, that is, I don't think the end result, right? As upset as people have been up to this point, I don't think the end result is lacking. Like, I'm very excited to watch Texas and Ohio State. I'm
Oh
very
yeah.
excited to watch Penn State and Notre Dame. Like, I think
Yeah.
these are four really good teams
Those
that
are
we're watching.
huge, like
Right.
blue bloods of the sport of college
It's
football.
just funny to me because like in the first round, I was like, "What are we doing? This is terrible." And the second round, the quarterfinals, like, "Oh my god, all the teams that got buys lost." But at the end of the day, like we're getting to see some really good teams. So
Right.
ultimately, I do think it's working. I think everybody's like hating. Just slow your roll, okay? Thursday, Friday, it's gonna be dope. All right, just tune in. It's gonna be amazing. College football's fun to watch. Big Z, this has been fun. This has been fun.
It's been
I've had a
great.
blast.
It's always been fun. It's always fun, man.
It's
It's,
always a
it's just the
great time.
best. I'm excited so excited for this week. There's like we got a great football week. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, college football playoff, NFL playoffs. We're gonna come at you guys hard with some power rankings. We're gonna do a lot of things. But yeah, thank you guys so much for all your support on YouTube, on Instagram, the interactions, the commenting. It's been really fun for us. We're continuing to grow, so let us know if we can do anything that we could or change anything. We're open to feedback, but love you guys. Have a good week.
100%. Thank you so much for supporting us, checking us out. Check out our Twitter. All right. I'm getting a lot of views. I'm
Yeah.
getting a lot of likes. I'm not getting a ton of follows. Hit that follow button. You know, I'm pretty
Yeah, hit the
funny.
follow button.
I'm
Come on.
funny. Big Z's funny. We're posting things. All right. We're on there
Yeah.
daily. All right. And shout out to Kevin for being in our chat. You wanted me to mention Pokemon. Not real sure why, but I do love me some Pokemon, Kevin. I don't know if you're out there,
I'm a
but
red and blue guy. Did he
all
say
day,
red and
dude.
blue?
Yeah, I think so. No, he said no. I don't think
Oh,
that.
never
Yeah,
mind. Yeah.
yeah. That's not
But
what it
red and
was.
blue is our
I mean, I'm taking Charizard all day. Like I'm like a Charmander was my pick because I knew it was going to be Charizard, and I'd be okay.
Squirtle.
Squirtle was your pick. That was it, huh?
Well, and
You
then
went full.
Blastoise. Yeah.
You didn't keep him small like in the show and like put the sunglasses on him. Like,
No, bro. No, bro. Dude, the water cannons, freaking awesome.
I mean, you're not wrong, dude. The only one that looked kind of slightly weird was Ivysaur, like with the big flower on his back, and it was like
Yeah.
it just looked weird in the game. I was like, "What am I?
Yeah.
Am I a rose? Like I don't understand what I'm looking at." But anyways, we did it, Kevin. We talked about some Pokemon for you. Thanks so much for joining. Check us out. We will be live every Sunday night. If you get bored, we're going to be on around like 8:40. We'll do a better job of posting it. I realized again we let ourselves
Yes,
down. I didn't
we will
post it on Twitter,
schedule it. We'll schedule it next time on our YouTube
and we'll
and
start posting
Instagram and
it.
Twitter. We'll let you guys know.
We will start posting it. We love you. Thanks for listening. Keep checking us out. Hit that follow, hit that like.